Hello and welcome back to Cybos TV. Well, we're moving our focus now from the Chinese currency to Indian banks. What is going on in India and their banking sector? Well, to tell me all, and I think a bit of an exciting announcement, I'm joined to my immediate left by MV Nair from SWIFT
Hello.
India. Good morning to you, Mr. Nair. And to your left, MV Tanksali from the Indian Banks Association. Good morning, Mr. Tanksali. Well, first of all, Mr. Nair, let me come to you. You have an announcement. Fill us in.
Yeah, you're right, Daisy, that we had a big announcement made on 18th of September. But I think before the announcement itself, I should take you back. What is this announcement is all for? It is last Cybos at Dubai that Mr. Yavarsha made an announcement that India joint venture is the first experimentation for SWIFT Global to go local in any country. And success of that venture is will set standards for entering other countries. What actually India joint venture is all about is to provide messaging services within the country, bring global best standards, bring global best practices and products to the Indian banking community. So we were joined with the 9 large banks and SWIFT together, we formed the joint venture. And I think 1 year we've done a lot of progress, and 18th was a very important day for coming together of 17 large banks, that is 9 shareholder banks and other MNC banks, private banks and the government banks to sign up to say that we'll support, once we go live, we'll support this entire venture. That was the big announcement we had on 18th. But it's also important how SWIFT supported the whole activity itself. While last September we met in Dubai, in March the entire SWIFT board had an offsite in Mumbai. We had a meeting with all the bankers, where the Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank, the Central Bank of India came in. So it all led up to a building of a momentum, where IBA, under the leadership of Mr. Tanksali as a CEO, played a very important role, because we're bringing a lot of value to the banking community. So that is the announcement on 18th.
Mr. Tanksali, it's a big achievement, I imagine. What difference will it make to the Indian banking sector?
Well, it will mean a lot to the Indian banking sector. Let me tell you that the Indian banking sector has evolved substantially, and today I am very proud to say that we are absolutely technology driven. Having said that, we really didn't have a good platform for the trade finance, and I'm very sure that the first thing that the banking industry will get benefited by a credible trade finance platform of a SWIFT, where the letter of credits, the bank guarantees, the various transactions will go through. We have good payment systems in the country, like RTGS, the new generation RTGS, and we'll use the platform of the SWIFT to route all messaging which are very credible. That's the most important part, which I as a banker really attached to.
And what about the relationship with corporates? How will that be affected by the new system?
Well, what happens that today the corporates would prefer banking with the domestic banks when you have such a secured and reliable messaging system. And every corporate would like to do the transactions online. They would not like to really come to the banks physically and transact. So if you have the connectivity at the corporate, you have connected the bank level, you have a very good platform, and the exchange like SWIFT, I think the things will really go very strong.
I think it's, Mr. Tanksali is absolutely right. For corporates, if you look from the corporate perspective, today the way it operates is you have connectivity with multiple banks. In case, I deal with 47 banks. All 47 banks host-to-host connectivity. Now, what SWIFT brings to the table is SWIFT is already connected to the corporates, it's connected to the banks. Once we are there in the country, it is one connectivity. It will remove a lot of complexities for corporates. The doing business will become online easy. And there's a lot of value. And as rightly mentioned by Mr. Tanksali, today when we issue guarantees, LCs, it's all paper-based. Very inefficient system that we operate. And what SWIFT brings to the table is completely very efficient system. So that's a big gain.
Let me tell you that all of us have been using the SWIFT services for the international trade finance activities maybe for decades. And having seen the credibility part when the offer came that SWIFT would like to set up a joint venture, that's how 9 of my members have said, yes, we would be a shareholder, we would like to be part of it. And that's how the SWIFT India today is a very strong organization.
Mr. Tangsala, if I can ask you, we've been talking a lot throughout this week about regulations and how international regulators really need to communicate better and to have one rule for all, not lots of different rules. What's the situation in India? What are your regulatory obligations like at the moment? What's the mood of the banks like at the moment?
Well, let me tell you that on the regulatory issues, the India is at par with any global standards. Our own central bank, which is called Reserve Bank of India, we are a part of the Basel. We are a part of the G20, and we ensure that on the regulatory issues, we are at par with the international and global standards. And thus, SWIFT being available to us, which would really help us in ensuring the compliances, would be a big asset, I would say.
And what's next for this journey? Obviously, this is early days. You said it's only
That's right.
it's only 10 days or something like that since the
Yes.
announcement. What's the future hold?
Yeah, I think it's an important point. We have sort of kept a target to go live in Jan. This is about 4 to 5 months now onwards. There are two parts to it. One is, providing the technological capability there, and which is happening the breakneck speed by SWIFT. We should provide the SwiftNet messaging services by Jan. That's one part of it. Second part is we have formed working groups by the banks and IBA together. They are getting into, because a little bit of a customization is required for the country. Each country is different. So they have come out with their own guidelines, and we will be incorporating into what standard messaging that we have. Second, we need to go out to the banks, meet all of them, bring them all together, get the approvals done. So the way we are looking at it is to create an ecosystem of almost all the banks in the country by Jan, who will also sort of sign up to use the services, and that will bring the maximum gain. If I, as a bank, if I want to issue a LC and the other bank is not with the SWIFT, then you'll not be able to issue. So it's the biggest challenge for us is how exactly to create an ecosystem of bringing all the banks together by the time we start. It's a tough task, but we're all together. Yesterday we discussed in the IBA forum here about, I think Mr. Tangsala will share this point, how exactly to take it forward. Mr. Tangsala, you would like to say?
Well, I would say that as we signed up recently about 17 banks, all others are very eager to come forward, and the SWIFT India has already announced that they will be sending the necessary documentations to the banks, and the banks would really like to come forward because, as rightly said by Mr. Nair, that unless both the partners are on the same platform, you can't do a transaction. And in order to make sure, I'm sure you are aware that our Prime Minister has declared that India would like to be digital India by 2019. And let me tell you that all of us in the financial sector are absolutely committed to getting digitized. And in such a scenario, I think the SWIFT availability will help us a big way in digitizing all remittances and messaging through that.
That's a very big ambition, isn't it, that the Prime Minister announced? And presumably the biggest problem or the biggest challenge will be finding the fully trained, educated youngsters who can fulfill the many jobs.
Well,
I mean,
India,
I know that's in the UK. That's our main problem with these ambitions.
I must tell you that India is bestowed with the demographic dividend. Today, we have the youngest population globally, and you must be sure that the Indian boys, the first moves towards the IT only, and that's how globally you will see the all Indian boys are the IT players. So I don't see a reason that we'll be able to really take up this challenge and take it forward.
Yeah, so he's absolutely right. If you look at the numbers, today we have 700 million handsets in the country. The remotest corner, a farmer also uses mobile. Is one part. And most of the outsourcing that globally is done in India. So technically qualified people are not an issue. Second, how exactly we look at in the financial system is that the large number of underserved population need to be provided with the banking facility. So Prime Minister's ambitious move towards digitization is to bring in e-governance to the country, while for us in the financial sector, how exactly we can work with them to provide access to banking is the biggest challenge. That is where the SWIFT will also play a very important role. Reach out to each one of the family, bring them into the banking fold, which in turn will trigger the entire growth of the economy. So it's a very ambitious goal. All of us are together on that.
Exciting times, isn't it? Well, I know that at lunchtime today here in this set we've got a talk exactly on that, on access to banking across the globe.
That's right.
And I think that will obviously be part of Bill Gates' speech later on this afternoon, won't it? So it's an exciting day on that subject as well.
I'm sure you are aware that we have embarked on a very massive program declared by the Prime Minister. We call it the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, whereby we are going to access each and every household of a country before our Republic Day, that's 26 January 2015. And
Very
each
ambitious.
household would have a banking access. They'll have a rupee debit card, which would have a capacity to operate on the ATMs. We have almost 160,000 ATMs in the country. It will be operable on all POS terminals. And all this is being accessed through the business correspondent model. So I think a lot of employment is also getting generated in the process.
Exciting times, but there's
Very
going to be no
exciting
rest
times.
for you, is there? It's going to be a very, very busy period. Well, gentlemen, thank you, given
Thank
how
you so
busy you
much.
both
Thank you
are,
very much,
for
Daisy.
talking to us today on Cybos TV. Really interesting and exciting times for the
Very
Indian
exciting times
banking
for India
sector and the
banking
country as a whole. MV Nair from SWIFT India and MV Tanksali from the Indian Banks Association. Many thanks to
Thank you so much.
That's all from me, Daisy McAndrew, just for the moment here on Cybos TV, but do tune in later.